The Vampire Academy is back, this time as a television show on Peacock. How did they do adapting it? Is it good? Is it bad? Does it live up to expectations? Hi friends, welcome to Beautifully Bookish Bethany. Today's video is going to be a discussion of the first episode of the brand new Vampire Academy TV show. The first 4 episodes are currently available. I just finished watching episode 1 and I want to talk about it. Let me preface this by saying that in preparation for this, I did a reread of the first book of the original series, and I've got to say I don't think it holds up great, but I was hoping to see some changes in the show that would take what makes people love Vampire Academy and modernize it in ways that make a lot more sense for 2022. And I think the show is doing that fairly effectively from what I can tell so far. The show is diverging from the books in a few ways, and I think it is for the better. It's making it more twisty, it's giving more depth and complexity to the world and the politics, and I think also allowing for a lot more nuance in the exploration of these characters. Lissa and Rose are best friends. They are our 2 heroines for the show, and while the book begins with them getting caught, having run away and trying to live in the human world for several months and being brought back to St. Vladimir's Academy, the show is quite different. This is where it diverges. The very beginning of the show instead takes place prior to the start of the book series. So we see this big party with lots of royals. We get a really strong visual introduction to the world. They do an excellent job using visual cues for world building elements, and I think that first big party scene is used excellently for setup. We also get our first look at Lissa and Rose's friendship pre-tragedy, and we actually get the beginning moments of the car crash where all of Lissa's family died and she and Rose were the only survivors. So it's interesting because that car crash has happened in the books, but we don't see it on page. It does inform things that have happened, but the story is beginning much later. The other difference is that while episode 1 does include a day outing where Rose takes Lissa out for a day and things kind of go wrong, it's not them going and trying to live in the human world for several months. So it's not playing with that element, which I think is probably a positive thing, and who knows, maybe they'll bring this back at some point as a plot point. But one of the maybe slightly more questionable issues that arises in the books is that humans, as well as Dhamphirs, which is what Rose is, one of these sort of vampire guardians, can become addicted to the feelings of having their blood consumed. And while they were on the run in the books, Lissa fed on Rose, and one of the issues she's having now is still dealing with addiction to that feeling that she's now missing now that they're back at St. Vladimir's. So that is just not a thing in the show, at least at this point. We do see some of the feeders, we do see that it is a pleasurable experience for them, but they're not pulling Rose into that dynamic. One other thing I really like about the way the show is doing things is that the political situation is much more clear from much earlier on. It's kind of in the background in the first novel and it does influence things, but we don't get a lot of detail on the setup, and I think the show really fleshes that out and gives us a lot more sort of political conspiracies, etc., to have of interest. And I think part of this is they're trying to appeal to a wider audience and not just teenagers, which is who the books are for. I think it's doing it pretty effectively. In terms of vibes, this is a very CW type show. Yes, it's on Peacock. I know Peacock is acquiring some things and trying to make some stuff happen. This is actually the first thing that I've seen on Peacock. I recently joined partly because I wanted to watch the Vampire Academy show, but this definitely gives CW vibes. It's giving you that stylized look. It's giving you the melodrama with the music, the, intense dramatic romance. That is the vibe that we're getting. So if you are a fan of CW shows, if that is a thing that works for you, this might be something to check out. One of my favorite things about the show so far, and I think this mirrors something that people talk about really loving in the series, is this incredible friendship between Rose and Lissa. And I've got to say, I find Rose and Lissa a lot more palatable in the show than in the book. They're still not perfect people. Rose still kind of gets herself into trouble and I think fits the characterization, but it feels less whiny as an adult reader reading the first Vampire Academy book. We're always in Rose's head, and she's a little bit irritating, at least for me. I know a lot of people love her, but I found her a little bit irritating. I feel like that is less of an issue in the show. I really like the casting decisions that they made. I think you can really feel affection between Rose and Lissa with the actresses that they have playing them. I love the fact that we are getting a very diverse cast of characters, and I know there has been a lot of hatred about that, but you know what? I am all for it, and anybody who's watched my channel at all knows I am all for it, and I think it's absurd that people are so upset about all of the diverse casting happening in different things. I think it's great. We have this absolutely stunning Latinx woman playing Lissa, and then we have this beautiful Black woman playing Rose, and I think both of them are doing a fantastic job. They come across as quite different in terms of personality, but people who care a lot about each other. I think the casting works really well. I am also loving the casting of Christian. It's really cool starting to see more Asian men as lead love interests, and I've got to say, on screen, I think there is chemistry between him and Lissa. I like the way that that's going. I like that it's sort of this forbidden romance. She is not supposed to be into him, but at least so far we don't have Rose trying to disrupt that, which again I like better because I think it preserves the sanctity of that friendship in a way that the book creates more Mean Girls type drama, whereas in the show what we're getting is political reasons that she's supposed to stay away from him, and that's coming from more political advisors. Personally, I think that works a lot better. I like that it allows for the strong friendship between these two women. It allows for loyalty, even if there are mistakes being made from time to time, but there's something else coming between them. I think that the way that that was written was excellent. I am also really a fan of the way that they seem to be setting up more of a love triangle for Rose. One of my biggest issues going back and reading the book as a woman in her 30s is the interactions between Rose and Dimitri. In the book, Rose is a minor, Dimitri is 25 and in a position of power over her. I feel like the show, they haven't told us their ages. We know that they're supposed to graduate in a few months, so I would assume that she's pretty close to 18. Also, Dimitri doesn't look as much older than her, and their interactions have been less sexually charged, although you can tell that there's something that's meant to develop over time. So I'm feeling a lot better about that. But I really like the fact that there's this boy who is a fellow student who seems to be a good guy. They've clearly been together sexually before, but he also wants to be a friend. I like the fact that this is setting up more of a love triangle with multiple love interests for Rose, especially while she is still a minor. I think that that could solve a lot of the problems that we see with the books and really update it. I also think it's going to be interesting to see who people are rooting for in terms of the relationships with the way that the show is choosing to approach it. I'm excited to see how that develops and the choices that they're gonna make. Episode 1 does a lot of work to set up the world, set up the characters and the relationships, and there are some really interesting twists happening as well. So I anticipate this finding ways to create more drama than the books, but a different kind of drama, maybe something that feels a little less juvenile at times, things that are more political. And I do think that in the first set of scenes, we get a hint at what we can possibly expect to come later in the show. There's a scene at this first party where Lissa's brother is having sex with a woman he just met in the closet. We see his butt from behind as they're kind of getting hot and heavy. So to me, that's a nod to the fact that probably eventually we're gonna get some more mature scenes as we move through the season. Visually, I think it's stunning. I think we're getting some really interesting costumes. There's a lot of drama on the screen that we're getting just with the colors and the backgrounds and the different shots that they're using. Overall, I'm enjoying it so far. I will say there are moments where the performances feel a little bit stilted. That said, it is the first episode of a new show, and it is not uncommon for the first couple episodes to feel that way as actors are kind of finding their way into these roles. But overall, I am liking it. I'm interested to see where it's gonna go and how it's going to diverge from the books while still maintaining some of the integrity of what makes people really love them. I will say the twist at the end of the episode of having Lissa set to be the next heir to the throne is an interesting one and is going to create a lot of tension. There's just a lot of questions that I have moving forward about where it's going to go. Oh, we haven't talked about Rose's visions. I think the way that they're doing that is really interesting. So far, she hasn't told anybody about them, and I don't think quite knows why they're happening or what's going on with them. But I think the way that they're showing it to us, where it kind of zooms in on her eye and then we see this fuzzy version of what we just saw happening, is effective. We get the idea of what's going on. They're using this visual medium very effectively in portraying that information. So far, I have not looked at any criticism of the show. I expect there is going to be criticism. I think there are going to be people who are upset about the fact that it is diverging from the books, although honestly, I think it is to the show's benefit that it's diverging from the books. So far, it seems to be setting us up for something that's going to be a lot better. I know there are people upset about the casting, and I mean, people who've been here a while know what I think about that. Yeah. I think the casting is great. I think the actors who are playing the lead roles are doing a fantastic job, and I'm excited to see what else they have to bring us. If you have any thoughts on the first episode of the Vampire Academy show, let me know in the comments down below. And if people are interested, I might keep doing these reviews for each episode. If you'd like to see this, kind of my thoughts and recap in this format or a more vlog style format, I could do that. But I wanted to give my first thoughts on the first episode. So far, my feelings are mostly positive. I like the direction they seem to be taking. I think the show is a lot of fun, and it has that kind of CW vibe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, it does help if you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.